joined again by Ivan Murphy, Executive Chairman of Harena Resources, who are advancing the 100% owned Ambassadava rare earth project in Madagascar. Ambassadava is one of the largest ionic clay rare earth deposits globally and is development ready. Thanks for joining me again, Ivan.
Good to see you, Darren. Thanks for having me.
So, Ivan, since we last spoke, you've put out a few announcements. Firstly, you've just announced you had an additional investment from institutional mining investment specialist RAB Capital, taking the holding up to just over 9%. Can you tell us more about this, please?
Yep. So RAB Capital are one of the most well-known mining investors in the London scene. Philip Richards is certainly one of the longest-standing mining investors. I think he was already here when I got to the city in '95, so he's older than me.
Mm,
And was an existing shareholder of ours. They had about 4 or 5%, about 5%, in fact. And we've now accepted a further direct investment into the company in return for some more shares, taking them just over 9%. So we're really pleased about that. It's a great endorsement of our project, of our company, and to have that additional support from him. He was an early investor on many other rare earth projects, so he's had a good run of spotting ones as they emerge and become
mm.
more in the limelight. So look, we're delighted to have him and really pleased with the investment.
Okay. So when we last spoke, you'd just been over to the US and you've since announced your intention to list on the OTCQB market. What does the OTCQB listing potentially bring in addition to your London main market listing, and how is the listing progressing?
Yeah, so look, we're advancing on that. We should have a trading date in the next couple of weeks, which we'll announce. And that will give us a couple of things. First of all, it gives us access to US investors, retail investors, who can buy our stock through the OTCQB listing. So that's great. That just gives us a first step into US capital markets. So that was very much what the plan was around that. But in addition to that, it's also just confirming to set out in clear terms that our strategy is to point towards the US and to look towards government agencies in the US and US corporates as potential partners for the project going forward. The US have a really very clear and now very much under execution strategy to develop and put their hands on more critical minerals and rare earth projects around the world. We've seen investments in the last couple of weeks, even since we last spoke,
Mm,
where government agencies have made investments in Brazil and in Africa in rare earth projects, and we would be very much fitting in that same criteria. So we're beginning to engage and develop our connectivity with US agencies, and looking forward to the shutdown being over there so we can continue those discussions with them.
yeah. And are you seeing like more, if you like, investor interest, do you think, from the US side as opposed to the London market, which obviously the London market has gone through some sort of, I don't know, I'd call it a bit of a stagnant phase recently. So is this just basically broadening the investor scope?
Yeah, well, I think stagnant's a very generous word for the recent
Yeah.
situation in the small cap mining market in the UK has been pretty tricky. But I actually think there's some evidence of that improving, and we don't have time to get into that, but I think
Yeah.
there is evidence of that improving, and I'm sure you'd probably agree. So we're very pleased with our listing here. We love being a London Stock Exchange main board listed company. You know, we're not on AIM, we're in a more grown up environment or a bigger environment. So
Mm.
so no, we're delighted with that, and we think that's improving. I think the US thing gives us that access to those US investors who wouldn't necessarily maybe direct investments directly into UK listed shares. It also allows us some exposure to US capital markets. So I think that it's very complementary to our listing here.
Yeah. So, I mean, touching on the US and talking about the US, only last week we saw a deal whereby USA Rare Earths Inc. has agreed to acquire a UK-based company, LCM, which is a rare earth metals producer. So there definitely seems to be interest in companies outside of the US from the US. Is it fair to say that Harena are aligning themselves with the US interests in terms of rare earths and Harena's potential to be a supplier of rare earths to Western markets?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we see ourselves as being able to provide feedstock into the US, rare earth shortage, let's call it that for want of a better term. So we
Mm,
think we have good feedstock to offer for refining in the US. We're not going to refine in Madagascar. And so we can, feed into that and be part of the solution for their their stated requirement to break their dependency on outside sources for rare earths, especially China.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, given you're not an exploration company, and you've banged this message home a few times, you have a JORC resource, and Ampas Indaba is development ready. So this isn't exploration now. This is about actually working up the project and getting to production. What are your next steps in terms of developing the asset, and the project, and ultimately getting it to production?
Yeah, so we have a pre-feasibility study which we've all but completed, and that will be submitted to the government shortly for the upgrade of our license to get a production license, for want of a
Mm.
better term. So that's all in hand at the moment. That's over these next weeks, and we're excited to be completing that and making that submission in cooperation with the government and with the Ministry of Mines. So that's a kind of a big milestone, getting closer towards that. We'll follow that up with a feasibility study and more on the ground work. We'd like to do a pilot plant, a lab, stuff like that on site, and just keep developing our proof of concept. Because as you say, we're just now pointed towards production, not no more exploration. So
Mm.
we're in a different, we're just in the next phase of what companies like ours go through. So I think there'll be lots for us to share with the market as we go along through these little milestones, and we move closer to those things, up to and including obviously getting financed for getting into production over the next 2 years. So yeah, so I think we're in a good space there, and we're definitely on a good sort of track of lots to do and lots of progress to make on site.
Okay. All right. Well, Ivan, thanks very much for the update. An exciting time for the company, and we'll hope to catch up again soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good to see you, Darren. Thank you.